They called him the Untouchable. For 30 years, Daniel Pierce built a $1 billion empire without ever letting a woman get close. He was not rude, just absent, emotionally and physically. He suffered from a rare condition that caused severe allergic reactions whenever a woman entered his personal space. Doctors had no answers. Therapists gave up. And Daniel simply adapted. He avoided touch. He avoided love. Until the day a quiet intern walked into his office and the impossible happened. He felt nothing. No symptoms. Just her. Daniel Pierce did not believe in luck. He believed in structure, in systems, and in distance. His entire company reflected that. Clean lines, minimalist spaces, no distractions, especially not from women. His private elevator was restricted. Female employees were reassigned before ever stepping into his wing. Most thought he was cold, but Daniel was simply protecting himself from humiliation, from illness, and from the chaos emotions always brought. He had lived this way since childhood. The first reaction had occurred at 10 years old. A young girl hugged him at a birthday party. Minutes later, he broke out in violent hives. His throat began to close. Emergency rooms followed. More episodes, more questions. Eventually, the diagnosis arrived: a psychological allergy with real physical consequences, triggered exclusively by women. Touch, scent, even prolonged presence could send him into a medical crisis. Daniel learned to retreat, to isolate. He built his world high above others, safe, clean, predictable. Then came Emily Winters. She was 22, smart, confident, unshaken. She walked into Pierce Global as a summer intern, unaware of the invisible walls she had just crossed. She had been assigned by HR by mistake. No one had warned her. And when she stepped into the CEO's office for her first briefing, Daniel should have panicked. Instead, he stared. There was no reaction, no nausea, no tight chest, just silence. She smiled. "Good morning, Mr. Pierce," she said, calm as a spring breeze. Daniel blinked. For the first time in 30 years, his mind did not scream. His heart did. But it was not fear. It was something else, something dangerously close to hope. Daniel did not understand what had just happened. For the first time in 30 years, a woman stood 3 feet from him, and he felt nothing. No rash, no heat, no nausea. Only stillness. That should have terrified him. But it did not. It fascinated him. "Miss Winters, sit," he said. His voice was sharper than intended. Emily sat, calm and composed. She showed no fear, only curiosity. Her eyes moved across the room, pausing on the minimalist decor, the glass trophies, the untouched books arranged in perfect order. Daniel followed her gaze. Suddenly, everything in his world looked like it belonged to someone else, someone colder than he felt in that moment. He opened her file. Her qualifications were impressive, but one sentence in her personal essay stopped him. "The most powerful truths are the ones people are too afraid to ask about." He looked at her again. "Why journalism?" he asked. Emily smiled, not playfully, but sincerely. "Because stories reveal people, and I like seeing what others miss." Daniel said nothing, but something inside him shifted. That answer did not just interest him, it unnerved him. Emily Winters had no idea what kind of truth she had just walked into. She had entered the one place no one else ever reached: his space, his quiet, his peace. And she had not broken anything. She had softened it. The following days unraveled his structure piece by piece. Emily shadowed him daily. She never made excuses, never asked irrelevant questions, and never acted like she needed to impress anyone. She was observant, intelligent, respectful, but more than that, she was unaffected by his title. She treated him like a human being, not a CEO, not a rumor, and that terrified him because Daniel Pierce had learned to control everything: his schedule, his reactions, his image. But he could not control the way his chest tightened when she walked in, not from fear, from something unfamiliar, something dangerous. He began adjusting the lights after she mentioned migraines. He stayed longer in meetings just to hear her speak. He memorized the sound of her footsteps. It was madness. It was wrong. It was real. One evening, as the elevator doors closed, Emily stood beside him in silence. Then she asked softly, "Do you ever feel lonely at the top?" Daniel looked at her. The question did not sting. It struck, not because it was rude, but because it was the truth. "Yes," he answered. And just like that, the walls he had lived behind for decades began to crack. Daniel had always known how to shut off feelings. He had spent 3 decades mastering it. He called it focus. Others called it fear. But whatever it was, it kept him safe. Until Emily Winters entered his world and began unraveling everything without even trying. Days with her felt different. Not loud, not dramatic, just quietly disruptive. She did not chase attention. She did not need approval. And somehow, that made her unforgettable. At first, he told himself it was nothing, a reaction to novelty, a passing glitch in the system he had built. But then, she started appearing in his thoughts after she left the building. He remembered what she wore, what she said, how she tilted her head when she listened. These were not the details of professionalism. They were symptoms of something deeper, something dangerous. She brought him coffee one morning, black, no sugar. He looked surprised. "How did you know?" "You always glance at the black roast in the break room, but never take it," she said. He nodded, speechless. The smallest gestures began to feel like collisions. She left her notebook behind once. Out of concern, he opened it to check for contact information. Instead, he found a line she had written during a meeting. "He is not distant. He is protecting something. The silence around him is not cold, it is heavy." He closed the notebook carefully, his hands tense. How had she seen him so clearly? He had spent years being unreadable. Now he felt transparent. The next day, Daniel asked his physician for full testing: blood work, allergy panels, stress response evaluations. Everything came back clean. There was no medical trace of his lifelong condition. The doctor reviewed the results, paused, and said, "If there is no reaction, then maybe there never was an allergy. Maybe it was fear wearing a mask." Daniel did not reply, but he felt those words echo through him. That night, he could not sleep. He sat alone in the office, staring at the city lights. Everything he thought he understood was crumbling. Emily entered quietly. She had returned for a folder she forgot. "You are still here," she said. He nodded. "I could ask you the same." She stepped beside him. No fear, no judgment, just presence. "Are you feeling all right?" she asked gently. Daniel turned to her, his voice low but honest. "Number, but I'm starting to feel something, and that is new." Daniel stood at the edge of his meticulously controlled world, feeling the delicate balance between order and chaos slipping away. Emily Winters, with her quiet understanding and effortless presence, had breached the fortress he had spent his life building. It wasn't with force, but with a kindness and calm that had started to unravel everything. It wasn't just the days they spent together at work. It was the subtle way she made him feel without even trying. For years, Daniel had avoided attachment, convinced that emotions were distractions that could destroy the empire he had built. His world was clean, silent, and solitary, a perfect structure to protect him from the chaos of human connection. But Emily's presence in his life began to make him question everything. The walls he had so carefully constructed felt fragile, as though one small disturbance could bring everything crashing down. The fear of connection, which he had once controlled, now felt like an obstacle he could no longer ignore. One evening, standing by the window, Daniel gazed at the city below, lost in thought. Emily's question, "Do you ever feel lonely at the top?" echoed in his mind. For the first time, he admitted to himself the truth he had spent years denying. The loneliness had always been there. It was a cost he had accepted as part of his success. But facing it now, he realized he had been lying to himself all along. A soft knock at the door interrupted his thoughts. Emily entered, her calm presence grounding yet unsettling. She set a folder on his desk, then asked, "Are you ever going to stop hiding behind all of this?" Her words cut through him, piercing the defenses he had built over the years. He quickly denied it, but even to himself, it sounded hollow. "I built this to survive. It has worked for 30 years." Emily's gaze softened as she stepped closer. "But does it make you happy?" Her question caught him off guard. For the first time, he realized he hadn't considered happiness. He had focused on survival instead. The words tumbled out of him, heavy and unsure. "I do not know, but I think I might want to find out." The silence between them was thick with unspoken understanding. But Daniel couldn't shake the fear that this transformation, this awakening, was leading him into unknown territory, something darker that he wasn't prepared for. The walls he had spent a lifetime building were beginning to crumble, and for the first time, he didn't know if he was ready for what was coming next.